Welcome to Passionfroot, where we pursue lives of purpose together. Lately, I've felt like I've been skimming the surface of my life. You know that feeling where you struggle to ground yourself in the present moment? You're always thinking about upcoming deadlines and get lost in the hours and minutes that seem to trap you at your desk. Time flies by, and when you finally get a chance to take a breath, you wonder, what was I just doing that whole time? This can be a really frustrating experience because it can feel like time is running out on you. I mean, sure, you may have been getting work done, but that doesn't mean that it's been fulfilling or that you've carried out your purpose in any meaningful way. One big reason I've been feeling this way lately is because I've been traveling. I know this is a huge privilege, so I'm grateful for the opportunity to experience new things, but it does mean that I've fallen out of routine. I could blame the plane trips and the time zone changes, busy itineraries, and navigating new cities all by myself, but if I'm really honest, the travel isn't actually to blame. In reality, it's been a long time since I've prioritized discipline in the non-work areas of my life. And that, I think, is really where the problem of feeling like your wheels are spinning and you're not accomplishing anything and time is flying by actually stems from. It is way too easy to slip into these unhelpful and sometimes toxic habits that keep us busy, sedated, distracted, or ultimately just skimming the surface of our lives. I mean, I have tried time and time again to establish new routines, to set up new to-do lists, to carve out new morning habits that will set me up for the day. And while that may last a little while, I haven't been able to find a lasting happy medium. And sure, some of that is probably because the to-do lists and the routines and the habits I'm establishing aren't sustainable. But I think the deeper reason is because I haven't sufficiently established my why. So today, in this video, I'm going to work with you to set a rule of life. If the words rule of life are a totally new concept for you, then you're not alone. I've only just recently discovered this concept and oh my goodness, I find it so motivating and so beautiful. And I really think that this is kind of the key that can unlock a lot of that potential, transferring your why into your daily life so that you actually feel like you're living a life of purpose. To begin, for the next 90 seconds, I'm going to answer the following questions. Number 1, what is a rule of life? Number 2, where did the concept come from? Number 3, why should we create a rule of life? And number 4, how do we get started? A rule of life is simply a set of statements that help you establish the posture of your life and your why. It is a spiritual discipline that can help you transfer your faith and your most important values into the routines and rhythms of your daily life. The temptation right now is to simply think, oh, okay, so basically it's just like a to-do list or a set of habits or a morning routine. But as we've kind of alluded to, it goes a lot deeper than that. The thing is, goals, intentions, habits, resolutions, all of these things are focused on what we do, but a rule of life is focused on who we are becoming. So the concept of a rule of life originated in about the 3rd century AD from a monastic community of mystics living in Egypt, of all places. The concept was later popularized by St. Benedict, who in the 15th century wrote his work, The Rules of St. Benedict, which is still practiced by Benedictine monasteries and convents even today. Slightly more relevant to today though, the concept was recently adapted and popularized by one of my favorite authors and speakers, John Mark Comer. And that's why I learned about it and that's why I'm sharing it with you. By crafting a rule of life, we become aware of the values, the expectations, the societal pressures that do shape us, and we have more of a tool or a framework to combat that. In addition to that, it should also, in theory, help us to stop compartmentalizing the different aspects of our lives. I know for me, it's very easy to say a prayer in the morning and then forget completely what I prayed about, or to meditate for 5 minutes and then immediately start stressing about something. These healthy practices don't necessarily translate into the other behaviors of our day, but a rule of life is intended to break that cycle and to actually incorporate it all into the way that we live. So the real question is, how do we do this? How do we establish and write for ourselves a rule of life? Okay, so we have our piece of paper, we have our pen, and we are ready to construct a rule of life together. How exciting! If there's something in this that just isn't resonating with you, scrap it, get rid of it. This is all about you. This is you making it work for you. That's the whole purpose of a rule of life. But generally speaking, a rule of life will require about 4 steps to construct. The first is a framework. A framework is basically something that can help you to clarify what values and what basically like categories or tenets you want to include in your rule of life. For example, you might decide to do a personal values assessment. These are available online. You can literally just Google free personal values assessment and there are multiple quizzes you can take. I recently did mine actually, and my top values, surprisingly, were health, freedom, spirituality, and community. Oh wait, one more. Creativity. Are we surprised? These top values can then be basically buckets in which you put habits and actions and statements about your life. The other option for a framework would be to basically split your life into the 6 main areas. These are work, relationships, health, finances, hobbies, and spirituality or faith. You can substitute any of these words for words that seem more important to you. The other option is to simply take a predetermined rule of life structure. Let me show you some examples of what I mean. If you just Google rule of life or how to make a rule of life or rule of life guide, these are just some of them that I have printed out, and it shows you that this can really take any form that works for you. This first one is from the website Praxis. It has 6 different areas, which are a bit different to the ones I just outlined. We have time, money, imagination, decision making, power, and community. This one splits your life into 4 areas. So you have your mind, your heart, your body, but this is on like the rest and limit side of things, and then your body on the work and service side of things. The other resource that I found is from Practicing the Way, and this is the one that I have personally used. I love it. This comes as a PDF workbook, and I've already been using it, so it's a little bit messy. Let me find the start. This is a guide that will walk you through exactly what you need to focus on. It will give you prompts. It will give you questions. It's really good. You can find it at practicingtheway.org, but I'll link it below. This is a Christian resource, and a lot of them will be Christian resources. That's just kind of, as I said, a rule of life is a spiritual discipline. So I'm a Christian, it will be biased in that way, but you don't have to be a Christian in order to incorporate some of these principles into your life. Anyway, now that caveat's out of the way, this should basically illustrate that there are so many different resources and ways that you can establish a framework for your rule of life. What I would recommend is pausing this video, having a look at the different resources, finding one that seems to work with your brain, or finding your own, making your own, and then starting the video again once you've got that. Cool? Cool. Okay, now that we have our framework in place, the next thing to do, at least the next thing that I would recommend you do, is to split your life into time periods. Along the top of your table, you are going to have a column for each bucket that you have established in the previous step. Okay, so for me, these were abiding, mind, body, relationships, rest, work and money, and gospel, hospitality. Now we're going to create rows, and I would recommend you do it like this: daily, the next one weekly, the next one monthly, the next one quarterly, and the next one annually. We are going to think of 1 to 2, 3 maximum practices that we can do in each of these. So I'm starting with abiding, I'm starting with daily. Something I really want to do better in my life is to spend an hour screen-free, spending time with God every morning. Okay, weekly, how am I going to abide? This is a really good question. I'm not sure actually how I'm going to do that weekly. So I'm going to leave that blank. Now, there is no pressure to have an action for every single time stipulation because some things are just not going to lend themselves to a particular time period. Monthly, on the other hand, I do have something that I would like to start doing. It is to spend 1 day per month. So basically set aside all distractions, all commitments, and just spend time, journaling and making art and like walking and connecting with God. This is a process. A rule of life could take a week to a year to establish and really, nut out the details of. So don't put pressure on yourself. This is just to start. What I'm going to let you do is pause this video, fill out the rest of the column, and then come back once you have most of the boxes filled in. Okay? Okay. Okay. We are back, folks, and I filled in probably half of this table. It's difficult to think on your feet of like an annual thing for a lot of the columns. I get it. It's not the easiest activity, but once you do have something in place, what I want you to do is to start looking for patterns. I've already found quite a few patterns. For example, daily, abiding. I want to wake up at 6 a.m. to spend an hour of quiet time every morning, but also my body. I want to wake up at 6 a.m. to establish a routine. But what might help with finding those patterns is rewriting them out in dot points. So what we are going to do by listing them all out is to establish a why. And that will help us to filter some of the things out potentially as well. Okay? So let's do that. Speed, please. Ow. Okay, I have written out a bunch of, all of the different goals that I had on this page. And I've put it into a list. Okay, now we are going to write out why each of these things are important to us. I will go through my whys in just a second, and then we will establish the rules of life from there, okay? Okay, let's pause, let's do it. Put your whys down, go. Okay, we are back. We are nearly there. I have written out my whys for every single one of these things, essentially. Let me walk you through an example. Abiding. I want to wake up at 6 a.m. for quiet time, and I want to go on a solo date once per month. Why is that? When I established these things in this thing, in this table, I wasn't actually sure why. It's just something that I felt like I should do or needed to do or wanted to do. But then when you look at actually why, it starts to make a lot more sense, right? I've written, because I want to feel on top of my life, not overwhelmed, and experience peace. I want to be led by God and hear his voice regarding where to go next. That makes a lot of sense to me, and it actually taps into some of those core values that I do have. Again, mind, morning affirmations, phone-free walk, social media-free 1 month of the year. Why? Because I want to feel at peace and confident in my identity. There's that peace thing again. Confidence, peace, on top of my life. All of these things are starting to kind of meld together. So from this list of whys, final step, guys, we are going to write a rule or rules of life. Yours might be 5 short sentences, or it might be 1 long paragraph. It doesn't matter. It's literally up to you. I found all of these examples online. The first one, it's like a whole A4 page of text. This is a very different example. This one is very creative. I love it. It is a picture of a hand, and it's got all of these things that they want to be and do on the hand. This one is a diagram which appeals to my organized mind. This one, again, amazing. This one is more of a graphic design concept. We've got broken down into day, week, weekend, priorities, whatever. This one is for a family actually, and it's got, again, all of those different categories, but it's kind of illustrated them and made them really, really simple to follow. Something I will say is that these categories were more of a tool than something that you absolutely have to stick to. As I said, a lot of mine in this diagram really overlapped. So when you create your rule of life, don't feel like you have to stay in these categories. You can totally break out of them. They were just a tool in order to actually figure out what you value and therefore create your rule of life. But the one thing that you should do, and I highly recommend, is you write these rules or statements as I am or I have statements. So rather than saying, I want to be a person who is very healthy, you say, I am a person who is very healthy. I have a healthy body. Summary, highlight the main themes, write out sentences, make those sentences as short and concise as possible, put them as I am or I have statements. Okay, pause and go. All right, my draft 1 is done, and I'm already noticing that there are a couple of sentences that I can condense. My rule of life says, I, Maryellen, establish healthy routines and boundaries so I can actively experience the peace that surpasses understanding. I want to add something here and say a meaningful life and live a life of purpose and generosity. Number 2, I'm going to spend time every day connecting with the Creator and being led and absorbing the truth about my identity in Him so that I can live out my purpose generously. That again applies. So we're getting there. We're massaging it. I think I can condense this once more. I'm going to do that. I encourage you to do it as well. I'm sure there are definitely things that you could probably summarize in your rule of life, because we want this to be like a mantra of sorts, or something that you can write down and see every day, or speak out every day, or have on your desktop. You know what I mean? Like, have it as your vision for who you are becoming. This is my rule of life. You ready? I, Maryellen Hacko, am a worthy, generous, creative, and purpose-driven woman who works hard to establish routines and boundaries so that I can experience the peace that surpasses understanding, make most of every day, create spaces to share beauty and human connection, live a long and healthy and impactful life, and serve others in my church at an unparalleled level of excellence. It's a work in progress. It's not perfect, I know, but that's the principle, guys. I have now a working document that can be molded and shaped in a way that motivates me, helps me to see the why behind everything I'm doing. Now, this statement, this rule of life does not undo this. You are very welcome to put this visually somewhere next to your rule of life, to, obviously practice it, put things in place, schedule time in your calendar for each of these things. That is obviously a part of this. But this rule of life is designed so that when you don't feel like waking up at 6 a.m. or you don't feel like calling that friend or going for that run, you are reminded why you're doing these things. And I think that is so important, and I love that. I think that's the end. I think that's all we had to talk about. I hope it's all we had to talk about. Before we finish up, I just wanted to say that if you have made it this far in the video and you've started that process of writing down your rule of life, I just want to say I am so proud of you. And you should be really proud of yourself as well, because this is not something to be taken lightly. And this is not something that is easy to conjure up and think about. There is so much that goes into this process. So as you continue to uncover what that rule of life looks for you, I wish you all the best. And I hope that you will continue this journey with us. If you hit that subscribe button or follow us on Instagram or TikTok, I will be sure to post some updates there about this. And I wish you all the best with it. Thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me, and it means the world to all of us on this channel. Let's keep growing together. Love you so much. Take care. Bye.